Hi everyone, Nicholas Mofidis here from sunny Cyprus and welcome to today's tutorial. And today we're talking about styles. Not the kind of style that you saw in my thumbnail with my hat and my glasses, but the kind of styles that we see in web pages and websites. Styles which make our web pages look more appealing and more interesting. We're going to learn about the different types of styles that we have. For example, external, internal, inline. We're going to learn about classes, but more importantly, we're going to learn about how we use them, how we include them in our web design, in our HTML code, and what the order of precedence is for each type of style when we have conflicting arguments. So if one style says one thing and the other style says the other thing, well, which one's going to have priority? So the first and most important thing to do is to understand what styles are and how we use them. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, let's understand the three basic layers which are included or which we need for web design. So the first layer is called the structure, or it's sometimes called the data layer. Now, the structure and the data layer, this is basically your HTML code. Okay, so this is what contains all the data that the user is going to see when they visit your web page. They're going to see all this wonderful data which is in there, your text, your images, your videos, all of these things. That's your data or your structure and how your web page is organized. The next layer is your presentation layer. And this is basically what we're focusing on today, because your presentation layer is usually your CSS code. And the CSS code stands for Cascading Style Sheet. The Cascading Style Sheet is what decides how funky, let's say, your web page is going to look. It's going to add color. It's going to add different settings like borders to your tables, your backgrounds, and all these different things. But it also makes it easier for you, especially when you have a website with multiple web pages. This is basically what we're focusing on today, the styles. The last layer, just so that we have a complete tutorial, is essentially your behavior layer. And your behavior layer is things like the code which we put for our web pages, things like JavaScript, and or it could be CSS or any other type of language. And this is the part which decides how your web page is going to respond to human interaction. So when the human being or the visitor who's visiting your web page actually clicks on your web page and clicks on buttons and this, that, the other, what actually happens, how the web page is going to interact with the user, that's the behavior part or the behavior layer. But we're focusing on the presentation. And that brings me to my thumbnail of this video. So here we've got a picture of me. And if we say that this picture is my data or the structure, my web page essentially, and over here, these accessories, the hat and the glasses, this is my style. Actually, I liked myself with the hat, by the way. So if this is my data, then I can apply style to this particular picture and say that for the head, instead of a bald head, we're going to have a hat. And instead of my eyes, I can give myself glasses. And you can say, well, okay, I could have taken a picture with that, but maybe I don't want this all the time. Maybe there are times when I want to, for example, whenever I'm going to put a picture of me, let me see if I can do this easily. Okay, so rather than Control C, and I'm going to put myself here again. I get myself again with the same style. Okay, so essentially what I've done, whenever there's a picture of me in any of my web pages, because I have linked this style sheet here with that web page and with that web page and this web page, whenever it sees a picture of me, it gives that style. But if I have a web page which is not linked to this style here, then that's like doing this. This data doesn't have that source, okay? Because this isn't linked. This web page here is not linked to this style here. So this is what styles basically do. I'm able to modify, if I've got many web pages, we'll do one more quick graphic here. If I have many web pages, and this is, let's say, web page 1, this is web page 2. So many web pages to put together, it gives you a site. This is web page 100, for example. And here is your style sheet. This is known as an external style, my CSS. Whenever this is linked to the CSS, it will pull all the information which is in this CSS style sheet, and it will modify these pages here with whatever is declared inside that style sheet. This one over here will not, because it's not linked. So what does that look like? Well, if we have a look at the code, here we go. An external style sheet is declared in the head section of your HTML code. So here's the head section here. And this is my style sheet. This is my CSS code, my CSS style sheet, and it's called styles.css. And here we can see that in the styles.css, I'm actually declaring that the background color of the body is going to be light blue. The font family, or the default font family of the body, is going to be Arial sans serif. The heading 1 is going to have a color of dark blue. And I've got these settings here for body, H1, and the paragraph tag. This style sheet is linked to this web page here in this line of code. Okay, and we can see here is that link, the href link, which is calling styles.css. So we attach an external style sheet in the very, very beginning of our HTML source code in the head section, and that's that line there. Okay, that's fine. Now we can go have a look at what an internal style is. So this was an external style sheet. This is here is an external. That's an external style sheet. Okay, and now we're going to have a look at the internal style sheets. So here we can see, again, inside the head section. So my head section now begins from here, and it goes all the way down to here. There's my head section, down to there. That's the head. This is before the body section of my web page. So this is before my data. So up here, I can see I've got my external style sheet linked here. All right. So you can have a mixture of external and internal and inline. But notice that my external, although my external link to my style sheet is right at the top, underneath, I've now got this thing here, the style. I've added another style tag inside the head section. And here it says that my style for the background color, again, is light blue, so on and so forth. And I can now modify inside. So irrespective, let's say inside this style sheet, it said that the background color, let's say inside this style sheet, it said BG color equal to red. Okay. Here, the body color says it's light blue, the background color. So what color will it be? Here I'm going to have conflicting arguments. The style sheet says that the background color is red, but the internal style says that it's light blue. Well, the result is going to be light blue. The reason why is because internal styles have precedence over external styles. This is why it's extremely important when we're adding internal styles in the head section, we must be careful to declare them after the external. So this one here, let me just show you again. This is the external in the head section. And then in the head section, I declared this part here, which is the internal styles inside the style tag. It comes after the external. The reason why, because these are called CSS or cascading styles. That's what the C stands for in CSS, cascading. Cascading means that it will do whatever comes in this line first, then it will do what's in this line, then the next one, then the next one. So the last line or the last argument has priority. So this first line here, as it starts reading the code from top to bottom, it says the background color is red, and then it gets an argument saying the background color is light blue. This is the last thing it saw, so the background color is going to be light blue. So order of precedence right now is internal style, then followed by external. So external styles have less priority than internal. Now we're going to have a look at inline styles. So here are my inline styles. And if we analyze this page here now, we can see we have here, let's get rid of that. We have here my external style, again, declared in the head section right at the top. Here's my head section there. Then here I've got my style, my internal styles declared after the external style. There it is there. Okay. And now we have below in the body section, we have our internal styles. So where are they? Here they are here. So here we're saying that the color, for example, H1, I've added an internal style, and it says that the color here is red for H1, and it's aligned to the center. So let's see the order of precedence. Let's say H1 inside the external style said it was blue. Then let's say this one here was actually heading 1. Let's say that was a heading 1, not a heading 2. Okay. And here it says the color for heading 1 is green. So with the cascading rule that we said, the first one that's executed is line number 7, which is my external style here. So H1 will be blue. Then it goes down to here. It sees line number 11. That comes after line number 7. It says it's green. So now it's going to be green. And then down here, it says that H1 is red. So the last thing that it reads is heading 1 equals red. So heading 1, this particular heading 1 is going to be red font. So now we can see that inline styles have precedence over internal styles, which have precedence over external styles. Okay? Classes. What is a class? Well, in this case, a class is a style or a group of styles, and we give it a name. Let's say I declared a class here inside my style. I basically give it a name. So this particular one here controls the P tag. Okay, so anything which has a P tag here will be affected by this internal style. Let's say I don't want to affect the P tag. I only want to apply a particular style to different parts that I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create my own class. So I don't just want to modify heading 1, heading 2, the background color, the standard HTML tags. I want to modify specific things, a group of things, or a selection of text or whatever. So what I can do this. I can call this my Nick style. So I'm going to put a dot. That's what declares it's a class. And I'm going to call this Nick. ST for style. Nick style. And I'm going to say that this is going to be font color. So I'm just going to put font color equals, I'm just going to say pink here, although I'll put the code, say pink. And align equals center. And then I close that. So this class here, Nick ST, I can declare, I can select a piece of text here, for example, and give that the class Nick ST, and that will modify this piece of text to be pink with an align of center. And that's what we can see. And we can declare classes either globally in the external style sheet. And why do I say globally? I say globally because these, if I declare a class in here, in this style sheet here, then the class, let's say I called it Nick ST, then I will be able to call this class in this web page because it's linked to that style. I'll be able to call it in this web page because it's linked to that. I will not be able to see it in this web page because this is not linked to that style. Okay, so I can create the class and call it from the different web pages. I can, however, if I did want to, I could declare it internally in my head section up here, and I can create my style tag here and declare my class Nick ST and put the parameters there and close the style. And here now, that style will only be available and will only be seen in this web page because it's an internal class. Just like an internal style, it lives locally within the web page. An external style sheet, like this one, can be seen by all the web pages which are linked to it, and inline styles, which are embedded as arguments in a tag, let's say the H1 tag, we include, let's say, color equals red. These are seen inside the individual web pages. Okay, so I think that's a lot of information for you. I hope you've understood the purpose of styles. We've understood external style sheets, internal styles, inline styles, and what a class is. And you should also have understood by now the precedence, which argument will override which argument depending on where it is in the cascading order from top to bottom. And the rule is this. So just to show that rule, we have, first of all, priority. We always list external style sheets in the head section at the top. We always list any styles that we got internal styles after the external. So if we have an external style, then we need to list the styles, the internal styles after that one. Okay. And then inline styles, they're going to be added as arguments to our tags in the body. All right, let's go see an example now of a web page which has got styles included. So I've got this one here. This now is a web page with no styles attached to it. It's got a heading 1 up here. It's got heading 2 here, font declared as heading 2, so it's got the default fonts. Then I attached an external style sheet, and that looks like this. We can now see I've got a gray background which has been called in. We've got blue writing, larger font for the heading 1, red writing for heading 2, and we've got blue borders, internal and external borders. And then I've got internal styles and inline styles on the same thing, which are overriding the external, and we can see that here. I've got now the heading 1 being overridden by this purpley font. Heading 2 here is a green font. Heading 2 here is a pink font with capital letters, all capitalized, and my external border is red. So this is what styles do. Okay, and we're going to be using this web page as an example. Now, a quick note, you can download these web pages and all the resources, which I'm going to have in this video, in the bottom of the description as a zip file, because this web page has actually got information, everything that I've shown you here with the pictures that you can download and you can use as a resource. It actually explains what styles are, what external styles are, internal styles, inline styles, and the order and priority. All right, so let's now go and see how we can implement these styles to a HTML document. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we need to have a web page. Now, I'm not going to show you how to create the web page. I've got other tutorials for that. And if you're looking for a particular tutorial or you're looking for how to do something in particular, you can find that in my playlist of videos. And if you're not sure where to find it, send me a message. I'll direct you to the right video and the right place in that video. So if you're looking for something, just let me know. I will direct you to it, if I have it, of course. So here I've got a folder. Inside this folder, I've got the files that I need to create a web page. Here's my web page, my HTML document, and it looks like this. This is the same document which I used earlier on to describe the different types of styles, external, internal, and inline. And from here, you've got a lot of information here. So you can read this and you can use this as a resource if you're an educator. What we're going to be doing, however, we're going to be applying styles to this particular HTML document so that we can improve or change the presentation of the web page. What we're going to be using in this particular tutorial is going to be Dreamweaver. I have a separate tutorial showing exactly the same thing, but using Microsoft Expression Web. I'm going to open up Dreamweaver now. You can right click open with, but I just like doing it this way. File open. It just allows me to know exactly where my files are. So I've got everything on the desktop in Dreamweaver. Here it is here. And there we go. And it's showing me the content view. I can go into split mode. And there we go. So this is my window or my layout for Dreamweaver. I have split mode, the code on the left, vertical, my web page preview, and then I've got my CSS designer on the right hand side and my properties down here at the bottom. So I've got a tutorial setting up Dreamweaver in the playlist. You can go have a look at that if you want to have the same layout. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to analyze this web page just very, very quickly to see what we've got in here. So let me just minimize the preview there. Here is the head section of my web page, and we can see here there's nothing in here. There are no styles that have been attached, no external style sheets, no internal styles, nothing there. Just a title here for my page, Understanding CSS Styles, and that's it. Then we've got our body tag, and in the body tag, we've got all this information that we can actually see in here, in all of this data here. That's all in the body tag. Now, we've got different tags. For example, this one here is a H1 tag. We can see this is a heading 1, which is why the text is a bit bigger, and it's enclosed in these H1 tags here, the HTML tags. Then we've got our body tag, which basically the table tag, which basically defines the table. And in the table, we can put attributes to control things like the borders, the margins, so on and so forth. And then we've got these things here. These are all H2 tags. And if I double click this one as well, you can see these are enclosed in heading 2 tags, which is why they're slightly bigger than the other text. This particular paragraph here, we can see is actually enclosed in this P tag. So that's basically saying that's type paragraph, and it's using the default styles for a paragraph. This one, however, and the rest of this text does not have a P tag here. Okay, so this is just using the default text of your web browser. It hasn't got any style defined to it. It doesn't have any tag defined to it to say it has to follow this particular style. And I did this on purpose because when we start creating now our style sheet, I'm going to modify the P tag. This paragraph will be modified and this one will not because it doesn't have the P tag. Okay, so that's enough about that. We're going to now create an external style sheet. I'm going to create a quick external style sheet. If you know how to create external style sheets, you might want to skip this part, but I just want this tutorial to be complete. So I'm going to create the style sheet, which I'm going to be using for the external style. So from here, I'm going to go in Dreamweaver, File, New, CSS. There's my CSS new style sheet. I'm going to save it straight away, File, Save As. I'm going to save it in exactly the same location as everything else. I'm just going to call this style 1, save, and there it is there. It's already saved. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start adding some selectors in here so that we can then attach our style sheet and modify the presentation of our web page. So the first thing I want to do is to modify the background color. I don't want that white color. I'm going to use a different color. The web page, the whole web page is governed by the body tag. So I'm going to click on the plus sign of the selector, type body. And then from here, I'm going to modify this over here in the properties. Now, in this section here, the show set, you need to leave it unticked because this only shows you, when you got it ticked, it only shows you the properties which have been applied to the tag that you've selected right now, body. I don't have anything, which is why I don't see anything here. Removing that will show you all the properties and you can find whatever it is that you're looking for. So the first thing I want to do is go to the background section here. I want to change the color. I'm just going to change all of this to C's so I get a nice, or you can just select your color from here, presenter, and there's my background color. The next one I'm going to do, I'm going to modify the H1 tag. So from here, I'm going to click on the selector. I'm going to type H1 and I'm going to modify the text. I'm going to choose a font family, a sans serif font family. So I'm just going to choose one here that ends in sans serif. Let's say this one here. Okay. And from here, I'm just going to say I want it to begin with an Arial. If that's not available, then an Arial Black. And if that's not available, then any sans serif font. So I can get rid of all of these and just leave what I want. Now, some of these have got speech marks, and that's because this font name has got spaces. So it's Franklin space Gothic space bold. So if a font name has a space in it, you have to put it in speech marks. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these. In fact, I'm just going to leave it as Impact Arial Black sans serif. So it's going to use the Impact font, and if that's not available, then the Arial Black. If that's not available, sans serif. Okay, and I'm also going to make the H1. So if we click over here, I'm going to make the color of this, the size of this font size 22. So I'm going to go to the font size here. I'm going to choose PT for 22 points and change that to 22. And I'm going to change the color of that font to a red color. So I'm just going to drag that up there. And there we go. And here's my H1 tag. Now, I'm not going to repeat the same thing for H2, but I am going to just copy these, paste over here. So these are the other font tags that I've put. So here's a font H2, so you can do exactly the same thing as before. This is now heading 2 is a Times New Roman, otherwise a Times, or the default serif font, size 18. Again, this is red. No, I don't want that red. Oh no, yeah, I wanted to make this one blue. So I'm just going to change that to blue. Okay, so heading 2 is going to be red. Heading 1, I've changed it to a blue color. Heading 2 is a red color. And for the P tag, I'm using bold, font size 12, and small capitals. I found the small capitals. So if you don't know where I found these for the P tag, when you go to the font, if you look at all these categories here, you can actually find them. You've got the font variant, you've got normal or small caps. You've got font weight where you can do italic, bolder, bolder, normal, lighter. And then you've got font style where you've got things like italic, oblique, so on and so forth. So you can add any of these attributes. Okay, the next one that I'm going to modify is going to be my table. So I'm going to use a little bit of, how we'll say, efficient programming techniques. This is where we group properties together. So I'm going to do one for the table and the TD tag. I'm just going to add the selector for table first. Enter, and then I'm just going to say that the table border is going to be 2 points solid. So my borders, here are my borders here. Sorry, my borders are here. I'm going to say that the style is going to be solid. So that means a solid line. And the border, if we look at the color, well, what should we do for the color? Let's make it a blue color. Okay. So here we're saying that the table tag, the table is going to have a solid border on the outside and it's going to be a color blue. I did want it blue. I actually changed that a little bit. So I'm just going to put that 00, so it's a pure blue color. And I'm just going to say that this also applies to the TD as well. So basically, I'm sharing, because these two properties are going to be common for the internal and the external borders, I've grouped them together. Okay. I want the table to be center aligned. So I'm going to show you this one. So I'm just going to click on the selector here, add the table tag again, table, there it is. Okay, and from here, I want the margin to be essentially the table to be aligned to the middle of my browser, which means whatever margins I've got, let's say my table is 90% wide, that means I've got 10%, which is going to be a margin. If I set it to automatic, it's going to place it automatically on the left and on the right to be center aligned, or I could put it 5 or 5%. So I'm just going to change my table to be automatic. So from here in the table tag, I've got my layout, which is there, and here is the margin. I'm just going to change this to automatic. There we go. Automatic and automatic. So left and right automatic, and that should align my table to the center. So I'm also going to do border collapse. From over here, I'm going to go to, just double click in here. I'm going to go to my borders. And then from here, you should see, there you go, border collapse. And I'm just going to click on that. And I'm going to say, which one do I want? Let's do separate. So you're going to see what separate does in a second. So essentially, where you've got two borders, two cells, and they are separated with one line, by using separate, it will make the first cell and then the other cell underneath. So you're going to see two lines. Okay, and you can adjust the spacing there as well in this section here. But this isn't to do with all the styles. We just want to learn about styles. So we've got other tutorials on that. So I'm going to save this, file save, go to my web page, and now I want to attach my web page. Now, a lot of people prefer going from here, file, and then going to attach style sheet. I don't like that method, and I'll tell you why. Because I prefer going down here. So making sure you're in the HTML section down here on the left, clicking on the class, and then choosing attach your style sheet. Browse, and I'm going to show you why I prefer this method in a second. And then when you click OK and OK, there you go. You can see now, can you see this double line? These double border line, that's because we made around the cells of the table, and that's because we chose border collapse as separate, so it's separated each cell individually. You can see that up here. Oh, that's black. What did I do? Let's go have a look. So for my H1, I put an extra 0 in there, that's why. So let's look, it's 2, 4, 6. There we go. If I go to file save, there you go, it's now blue. We can see this style at the top that's been applied. We can see our heading 2 has got that red font. And notice this particular paragraph, which is using the P tag, okay, this is what we said before. Let's do that. Because it's using the P tag, it has been formatted with those small capitals and that style of font. This one hasn't because it's not surrounded by the P tag. It's not defined by the paragraph tag. It's just the default font. And that's what I wanted to demonstrate to you guys, that what styles do, they modify the tags that hold them. Now, unless you specify a class, something which we haven't done. So let's go back to our style now. At the bottom, so I'm just going to click here. I'm going to create a new class. Now, this is really easy. So what you can do, the way I do this, I just prefer doing this. If my style is going to be formatting the font, let's say, and that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose a particular font, then I'm just going to choose any style. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going to go do this. It's entirely up to you, by the way. I'm just going to write, I don't know, let's say H1 again. Okay, let's just bring this up. Don't know why I moved that down in the first place. So let's put the enter here so we can work in the middle of the screen. There we go. Now I'm just going to put the style which I want for that particular class that I want to make. And the style is going to be, the font weight is going to be bold. So I just want this. Font weight. I want bold. And I want a color of, let's choose a color. Let's do this. FF. Okay, this light blue color. Okay. Now this is for H1. If I want this for a particular class, or I can just change this like this. I put a dot. That's what defines that this is a class, and then give it a name. I'm just going to call this Nick Mod. Oh, how about CLS for class? CLS1. That's it. That is a class which has been defined in my external style sheet. Let's save this and see how we can use it. So if I just go to file save, go to my web page. Now my web page is already linked to that style sheet. Have a look. Here's the head section up here, and here is my link, which is linking my style. Okay, there it is there, style1.css, and it's linked. So where is that class? I know everything else here has been applied. My heading 1s, my heading 2, the borders, the border collapse separate, the paragraph, but where's my class? Well, I can do this. I'm going to select this heading 2, which has already been formatted as a heading 2. And now, remember I told you how I prefer to attach my style sheets? I go down here with the classes. But now, because my style sheet has a class inside it, it actually displays the class here. So this is when I attach the style sheet. I just click on this, and there you go. That style has now been applied. That's a class. And if I wanted to apply the class to, let's say, some of this text here, this text is not controlled. So let's just take this one, these couple of sentences here. This text here is not contained within a P tag or a H1 tag or anything. So I can modify this using my class. I can just go down here with the classes, click that, and look at that. That text has now been modified. Okay, so this is the beautiful thing about a class. We can use it again and again and again and again. Whereas a style in the style sheet, it actually only modifies the tags that you use. And the way that this is attached, and you prove that you've got this in your class, there it is there. So let's just do that part there. Can you see? It spans that class there, Nick CLS 1. And this one here, which is the heading, it's put it inside the H2. This command here, this attribute here will override what we've got for H2. Why? Because what we've got for H2 has been described or implemented on line 8 when we attach the style sheet. But then down here, remember we learned about priority on line 31. It says that H2 is going to use this class. Okay, so that will override it. Perfect. That's basically external styles, creating external style and understanding how we can attach the external style sheet and where it is linked as an example. Let's go have a look and see what our web page looks like in the browser. So there we go. I refresh this and we can see that my table is now center aligned in the browser. We've got the borders. We've got style 1, style 2. You can see my class here has been called in. So although this is heading 2, it's showing the class style, which I gave it, Nick class 1. And the same goes with this text here. And this is basically my web page. So great. That's how we can create an external style sheet, attach it. And now we're going to go look at how we can add internal styles. Internal styles, remember, we're going to override any external style sheets. So let's get started. Okay, so how do we create internal styles? Well, some people are a little bit worried about internal styles because they think they have to learn the CSS programming code by heart. Well, you don't. Essentially, creating internal styles is exactly the same as creating external styles. Let me show you what I mean. So if I want to create internal styles, I'm simply going to go in Dreamweaver, go to File, New, and simply create another CSS style sheet. I'm not going to save this one because I just want this style sheet just to help me so that I can create my styles. And I'm not going to create all the styles again. We've already looked at that and I've got other tutorials for that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy paste these ones that I've got already here, just explain them to you. So here I've added a heading 1 style with a particular font family and a particular color, that purpley color. I've got a table tag here as well, which is changing the external border to a red color. I've got an LI tag, which is going to change. Let me just show you the LI tag. So if we go here to the text, and then we scroll down, we've got here the list style type, and you can choose different style types from here. So whether it's a circle, whether it's a decimal, upper Roman, lower Roman, and all that. And here I've created myself another class. This is called Nick class 2, CLS2. And I've just set the color to whatever color that is. That's a green color. Okay. I haven't set it for any particular thing like a font or whatever. And I created it just like before. I simply typed the dot, the class name that I want, and then I modified it. So you can just do this without using any tag. Just put tag test class CLS and then open and close the curly brackets. And there you go. When you jump over here, let me just go inside these curly brackets. When you jump over here, you can just add any, I don't know, let's just choose a font one here. Okay. And that's it. You see, that's just another class. So you can create it just like any other one of these styles up here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't need to save this. All I need to do is I'm going to copy these styles. I'm going to go back to my web page, go to the head section before the head section closes. Now, if you remember at the beginning of this video, I taught you about order precedence. When we have conflicting arguments, which argument is going to have priority? And we said, first of all, the C in CSS stands for cascading, which means it goes line by line. So whichever one comes last, that's the one that has priority. Okay, so I'm just going to, before I paste my code in here, I'm going to write the tag style. And notice I'm adding the style tag after my external style link. So this is the link to my external style sheet. The style has to be, internal styles have to be placed after any external style sheets so that the internal styles have priority. Okay, we're going to see this now. And I simply paste, there you go, the styles which I made here, I copy pasted them in between the style section here and here. And there's my head section down there where it closes. Okay, that's it. This is now my internal styles. There's absolutely no difference to it. And automatically you can see that my page here has already been formatted. Look at the external border of my table. It's red. It was blue because this style sheet here before said the external border should be blue. This heading 1 was blue. It's now that purpley color. It was blue because when I only had my external style sheet here, it said it was blue. That was on line 8. As it came to here where it says that my heading 1, this one now, should be a new color. This color here, that purpley color. So the internal style has prioritized, it's overwritten any commands that my external style sheet had, and they are conflicting. Okay. What about this class 2? Well, remember where I told you to go when you want to attach attach a style sheet? Well, I'm going to now select this one here, which is a heading 2. I don't have a heading 2 inside my internal styles here, but if I want to modify that using my class, I go down to here, class, and look, I've got the Nick class 1, which I made at the beginning in my external style sheet, but it also lists me the Nick class 2 because that class is specified in this web page, in the HTML code. Let's click on that, and there you go. I get that green color. Okay, let's do a quick save on my web page, file save, and let's just go reload our browser. There we go. So we can see here, this has been, the internal style has been applied. This is the external style. This is from the class, the first class that I did, Nick class 1. Here is Nick class 2, and the red borders on the outside, these have changed now to red. Okay, so this is all from the internal styles. So we've seen here how the internal styles have prioritized or got higher precedence than the external styles. What we're going to look at now is inline styles. Remember, inline styles have the highest priority because they're specified in our HTML code further down. So let's go have a look at them. Okay, let's have a look at inline styles and what they actually are. So inline styles will directly modify a HTML tag. For example, here I've got, in line 33, I've got the table tag, and I've got this HTML attribute width equals to 90%. Now, many people are going to argue this is not an inline style. Well, actually, it is an inline style because this attribute will directly affect the property of that table tag. And that's essentially what an inline style does. And it has the highest priority. Now, the fact that in most cases, the CSS style of the CSS format of a style is preferred in more modern web pages. This is actually something used in older versions of HTML code, but nevertheless, it is an inline style because it is an attribute that will modify that particular tag. So how would a more modern style look like? Well, for the same thing, well, instead of just using the attribute so that they can actually separate things, you would use the style attribute and then put its value. For example, like this, style equals to, and then I'm going to open up my speech marks, width, colon, and then my value, 90%. So that's going to do exactly the same thing. So if I just modify this, let's have a quick look. So if I do a quick save on that and reload this, okay, there it is, it's 90%. And if I was to change that value to, let's say, 50% to make sure that that works, Control S to save, and jump over here and then just reload. There you go, that's 50%. So this is the CSS style version of an inline style. But even if you just use, for example, in a table, the width equals to the value, or the BG color equals to value, or border equals to value, then that is also an inline style. So I'm just going to change that back to 90%. So how do we do these a little bit easier? Well, we said that inline styles, they're going to affect the tag that they are applied to. For example, if we take this tag here, this tag is we're applying the H2 tag to that piece of text. The H2 tag is actually being controlled, the presentation of the H2 tag is being controlled by the internal style No, do we have an internal style? No, by the external style sheet, this one here, where we set up H2 to look like this, and it's got a red color. Okay, and that's why this particular one is red in color, because it's pulling the presentation from the external style sheet. This heading 2 is actually being affected by the class. Now, looking at this, essentially this class here, where we've actually said that this piece of text is going to use the class Nick class 2, which we saw a little bit earlier, that is also an inline style, if you think about it, because it is modifying the H2 tag directly within the tag. That attribute there, the class attribute, is modifying that style. So let's go apply inline style here to this title here. So we're going to modify the H2 tag. Now, the easiest way to do this in Dreamweaver is this. I'm just going to pull up my properties up here. So we're normally working up here in the HTML code. And if I was to, for example, click here on the CSS, I can see that what is actually controlling what I've selected here, that text, is the targeted rule H2. If I click on this one, it's what's controlling it is the TD tag. So this paragraph is being controlled by the TD tag. It's encased in the TD tag because there's no P tag around it. In that top paragraph up here, we saw that it's being controlled by the P tag because we do have the paragraph tag encasing it. So the good thing about going to using the CSS properties area, it shows you exactly what tag is controlling what. Okay? No, go away. Right. Now then, so from this thing here, we can see it's H2. Now, if I want to add inline styles inside the H2 to change the color, for example, from here, from the targeted rule, I'm going to click that drop-down list box. I'm going to choose a new inline style. And now, for example, I can change the color of that text to be, I don't know, let's make it a pinky color. And I'm going to change the size to, let's say, 24. And now you can see inside the H2 tag contained, I've got these attributes, style equals to, and it opens up my speech marks, color, the value, colon, a semicolon to close that value, and then the font size, and then a semicolon to close that. So this here is considered an inline style. And we can add these inline styles to any tag. Okay, let's go have a look and see what our web page looks like now that we've applied that. So I'm just going to go to File, Save, and go to our browser and just do a quick reload. And there it is there. We can see that inline style there. So let's go back. Now then, so we've seen here that this CSS properties area here, we can see the properties of all the CSS rules that we've applied. So only CSS rules were going to be modified in this area here. And we modified, we could see all the rules that we got, let's say the classes, the TDs, the H1, the H2s. Now, what we can also do is we can create those inline styles. We've just seen here, we can modify and add inline styles. So if I go down to here, this particular text here, order priority, doesn't have any kind of tag, and it's modified or it's controlled by the TD tag. And we can see that here in the CSS rules because there's no other tag controlling it. So I can go back to HTML, put this to heading 3, for example. So this is now controlled by the heading 3 tag. Now there's two ways I can put, there is it up to there. There's two ways I can now put inline styles on this. The first method is I can select my text, go to the CSS rules, click new inline style rule. It's not showing me a style rule because there is no style applied to that. And I can just say, for example, I'm going to make that also let's say a pinky color there, press enter. And let's say I'm going to change the size as well to, let's say, 16. Okay. Now, what this has done, if we just, let me just get rid of that designer. Let's just squish that a little bit there. So what this has done here, it's actually taken the span attribute and given the properties for the span, saying from here to here, it's going to use the style, this color, and this size. That's one way. If you wanted to apply the inline style to the tag, however, I'm just going to undo that. Undo. I'm going to click inside the tag, the H3 tag here. And then I'm going to go to new inline style. I'm going to choose exactly the same thing, that pinky color there. Press enter. I'm going to change say the font size to a 16. Press enter. And now we can see the new style has been added to whatever's inside the H3 tag. So this style is part of the H3 tag only for that particular one there. So making sure you've got your insertion point or the correct selection is important. It's just like a Word document. Wherever your insertion point is, that's what's going to be modified. Let's do one more. So down here where I've got my list, the external styles, if I select this one here, that's going to show me here. So here's the LI tag for this one list, this first list, number one. Now, if I look here, my CSS, if I make a modification now, it's going to modify the LI tag. So wherever there's an LI tag, if we look up here, we've said that in my internal styles, the LI tag here has got upper Roman numerals. So if I go down here and just click on that first one, and I modify the targeted rule, LI. Now, the targeted rule is the internal style, and I make this, let's say, font pink, and then click OK. It's going to change everything to pink. Why? Because I've now modified this LI tag. Can you see it's added this line here for me? It's added the color, okay, which is what I just done. So it's actually modified that style. If I don't want that, I'm just going to undo, take that back. If I wanted to modify only the first line, then I would just click here and click inside this LI tag here and choose new inline style. So this is going to put an inline style for that particular LI tag. So if I make that one a pinky color now, there we go, press enter, you can see this style has been applied only to this LI tag, which is why down here we've only got that first paragraph or that first list in a different color. So that's an inline style. It has priority over the previous styles. Okay, so it's very important if you want to add a new inline style, which is going to override all the other styles, you click on the tag which it's a member of or the which is containing that text, and you choose a new inline style. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to modify the TD tag using the CSS properties bar down here. Now, I could do this because I've specified the style for the TD in my external style sheet. I've got it here. Let me just move the properties out of the way. So I've got the properties here. The table in the TD tag says that the border color is going to be a blue color. And I've done this because this is efficient programming techniques. But now inside I want to modify that TD tag. I want to add a new style. I want to modify it so that the TD has a different color. So I'm just going to do this. I could do this by simply going down here in the TD and adding another border color like this and changing that color. Let's just do FFFF. That's going to be that. Control S. And now when I go over here, we can see all of these borders now have got that light bluish color. That's one way of doing it. I'm also going to show you, I just want to show you using the other method. So Control Save here. From here, I can use my CSS, go find the targeted rule, which is the TD. And then from here, I can just modify the TD rules. For example, I can turn around and say that if I edit the rule, so we've got these more properties here. So any CSS rule which I have specified, whether it's H1, H2, the TDs or whatever, those rules we usually have this edit rule where we have more properties that we can modify. So I've already specified, what am I looking at? Not the P tag, I want the TD. And I'm going to go to the edit rule. I'm going to say the border. And I want to modify the color of the border to be, let's say, this light blue here. Enter and enter. And what that's done, can you see it's all blue, but where has it added this rule? Well, it's added it in the rule which was governing the TD. That was in my external style sheet. And here it is. Can you see? It's added it for me again here. That one there. Now, so right now, here it says that TD should be a dark blue color, but down here it says TD should be a light blue color. So why is it light blue? Because this command is executed on line 45, but this command is actually executed on line 28. So the higher the number or the lower you are in the, let's say, commands that are given, the last command given is the one with priority. So if I was to take this and just simply move this, I'm going to cut that and put it before this entry. So here it says that the internal borders for the TD are going to be light blue. Then it comes down and says that the internal borders are going to be a dark blue. So the last thing executed in order of precedence is the dark blue. If we go have a look, there you go. It's back to dark blue. Okay, so that's how precedence works. That's how the hierarchy of style sheets work. I'm just going to change that again. Just put that back. So if I now move that back down here, so it's got higher priority. So I'm going to cut that and put it down here. There we go. Control S to save. And there you go. It's got the light blue because it's got order of priority. And if I can save that as well, go to my browser. So there you go. Bit of a mess. Not a very nice presentation of a web page, but we've done so many changes here just so that you can understand how external, internal, inline styles work, how classes work, and the order of precedence. Now, I really, really do hope you were able to follow that. I hope you've learned something new. And if you have, you know the drill. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.